long-awaited AreaLit tutorial. I'm going to do it in little sections so that it's easier to follow along with, and by the end of it you should have AreaLit completely set up with avatar lighting and shadow masking. So we'll start off with making sure every material that you have that you want to have AreaLit enabled is on a AreaLit supported shader. So ones that are included are in AreaLit. I think Pyomi supports it, and or Mochi. We'll be using Mochi and the included ones in AreaLit. Alright, so a few things you'll want to do before we get started are making sure your video player actually has the option to output to a render texture. This one does. I'll leave a download link for everything that I use in the description. If it does not, if you're unlucky and you don't have your video player already outputting to a render texture, you can download Video RT, and setting this up is real easy. All you do is you make a new quad, and you go and you make the material this, the video B-lit, and then you add a VRC AV Pro video screen, and then you'll add your video screen in here and set it to use shared material, and that should make it output to the render texture. However, we're not going to use this, so we can delete that. And we will use the one that comes with this. So once we have that and you've changed all your materials over to a AreaLit supported shader, what we're going to do is we're going to go to all those materials, and if you're using Mochi, you'll do this. You'll go to AreaLit, enable it, and then you'll set the light mesh in the mesh slot, and then this doesn't matter which texture you pick, which texture slot. However, we're just going to go with 0 because it's easy to remember, so we'll put our video render texture in 0. And you'll do that for every material that you want AreaLit on. Now once we have all the textures set to all the materials, we're going to go in, make a new material, and we're going to name this AreaLit video. And what this will do is it'll act as a light. So all the light will come from this material. The shader you're going to want to pick is AreaLit and then light mesh. And this texture index will need to match whatever you picked for the video render texture. So we'll keep it at 0. And then you'll go to your video player screen. So if you have a different screen, you can do this with that, but we're just using the default one. And there's technically 2 ways you can do this. You can set the size to 2 on the material slots and drag the AreaLit video into the second one, and then that'll work. That's what we'll do. Or you can duplicate it and just add it onto the duplicated one. However, we're going to stick to one mesh because it's a lot simpler. And once we have that, we'll go into the AreaLit example folder, and you should see a prefab called LightCam, and this is what we'll want. However, I have a separate one, so we'll put that in there. So you just drag your LightCam into the scene, and you're going to want to make sure that it's the area you want it. Also, make sure you have gizmos turned on. It'll make your life a whole lot easier. Once you have this, you're going to go to these 2 cams, and you're going to raise the size so that it fits your entire area that you want to have AreaLit. So this is plenty big enough, and you're going to want to do that for both. However, you most likely won't be using the text cam. It's used for other things, so you can technically disable that for performance. And then once we have this, you're almost done with just the initial setup of AreaLit. So once we have all that, you'll move on to making sure that your video player screen, the quad that we added the AreaLit video to, you'll set the layer to transparent FX. If you do not do this, it will not work. You won't see any output at all. And now that should be an easy way to test, is to go to this AreaLit light mesh material we made and set the texture index to -1. You'll see we're actually getting some AreaLit GI now, and you can use this to test and see what it looks like. And if you feel like it should be brighter, you just change the intensity here. We'll keep it at 4, and we'll set it back to white and 0. If we go to our video player, just enter in a video, hit play, we should be able to see our video with AreaLit working now. And there we go, we got AreaLit working. So that would be the simple setup to just get AreaLit running as quickly as possible with no avatar lighting or shadow masking. Alright. Alright, ding dong, little thing I forgot to mention, you're gonna want to have some kind of baked either lighting in the area that you have AreaLit or some kind of ambient lighting. Easiest way to get ambient lighting is probably just to add like a skylight and then just set the intensity to like something really low. Yeah, back to the tutorial. So now that we have AreaLit set up, we're going to hop into setting up the player lighting or avatar lighting, which is very simple. All you're going to do is go to the AreaLit folder, example folder, find the scene called demo, drag it into your hierarchy, go to scene, and we're going to steal the projector, and we're going to move that to ours, and then we're going to remove and do not save demo scene. You're going to go to your projector, and you're going to want to make sure that it's roughly in the area, and the same thing we did with the light cam, you're going to make sure that the box encompasses the area that you want avatars to be affected. And then what I like to do for testing is add a sphere, and this will act like our avatar. And we're going to put a simple material on it, just a standard material, doesn't matter what. We'll go to our projector, and we're going to make sure that the AreaLit maps all match up to our other ones. So light mesh should be in the mesh slot, and then our video should be in whatever slot we picked for video, which was 0. If we go to our material we made for the AreaLit video, set the texture index to -1, we can actually use this to test if everything's getting AreaLit. We'll go back to projector. One last thing, and make sure you set the little sphere to player. See that we're actually getting some GI on it now. Few things to know about the projector, which is what a lot of people miss, is you can change the intensity just for avatars by changing this. Alpha will actually change, we look at the back side of this, it changes how much is added to the actual avatar. So all the way to the right, you'll see it completely overwrites whatever shader this has on it. If we pull it to the left, you'll see that it just basically adds on to whatever shader. This is typically what you want to use somewhere lower in the alpha, so I like to use 30. I found is really good. To make sure you don't run into making your avatars look shiny, make sure that your smoothness on the projector material is not on. If you want it to have some reflection, you can split up a little bit, but I like to keep it pretty much off. That's simply how you set up avatar lighting. Real simple. All right, now for the shadow masking, which I'm sure a lot of people are wondering how I do this. And there is 2 ways of doing it. The first way that I do in Unity, just because I find it easier. However, you can bake it out in Blender if you know what you're doing. However, I'm not going to go over that because it's unnecessary. If you want to do it, I guess learn how to do Blender. But what we're going to do is in Unity. So starting off, we're going to go and make a bakery light map group. Set this to 4K. Name that AreaLit Shadow. And then we're going to go to our highest game object, or you might have to rearrange your scene a little bit, but essentially what you want to do is the area that you have all the shadow masking in, all those game objects or meshes, you probably want to nest under a specific game object. Here we have Ancient Chamber and then everything underneath it. Go to Ancient Chamber, we'll add a component that's a group map selector, so Bakery Light Map Group Selector, and we're just going to drag in our group we made. This is going to do is force Bakery to keep all of this in one group, and that's what we want, and you'll see why in a second. We'll want to make a duplicate of the video screen, and we're just going to remove the materials off it because we don't need them. On that new object, we're going to actually add a bakery light mesh. Go to the color, and we're going to set it to either red, green, or blue. We're going to do green. We're going to set the intensity to 5. However, this might differ for you because based off of how big of an area you have or how big your screen is, so just keep in mind if it doesn't look right, come play with the intensity. It'll fix it. We're going to make sure that all our other bakery lights are disabled. Just the component. Don't turn the game object off, otherwise you're going to mess up your bake. It's not going to match up. Toggle the component off for your normal materials and make sure your bakery light mesh is on. Then we're going to go to bake out. All right, and now that the bake's done, you'll see that we have some nice green shadows. This is what we want. And now what we're going to do is we're going to save AreaLit Shadow. So we're going to move this into a separate folder. All we're going to do is we're going to disable component bakery light mesh, and then we're going to re-enable the components for all our normal lights, and then we'll bake how we normally would. You can also return on emissive boost if you need it on, and render. And now that we have a normal bake, all we're going to do now is click on our materials. You'll see an occlusion area in AreaLit, and all we're going to do is drag this onto there. Probably want it on UV1. I should mention that if it doesn't work, you probably don't have a secondary UV set, which means you need extra UVs for this. So as long as you have more than the first one, then you're fine. So we'll just drag all this on to our occlusion maps. And don't worry if it looks broken, don't worry about it. It should fix itself in play mode. So once you have all those set up, click on your screen and you're going to go to the material, the AreaLit light mesh, the AreaLit video we made, and you're going to make sure occlusion channel is set to green or whatever color you picked at the beginning, the light bait. If we want to test it, we can type -0. If it looks like this is just because it's not in play mode. Don't ask me why it does that. So yeah, there's your finished AreaLit with working occlusion. We have nice shadows where they should be. That is how you do occlusion. There's some more advanced stuff you can do that I'll go over real quick, which is doing multiple screens. So let's say you had something like this. You have a main screen, then you wanted this as well. You'd basically set up your screen and you'd make a separate material, AreaLit video, and you just change the occlusion channel. So same setup, just with a different color, and then you bake it out, and that would be how you do it. Hopefully this helps people. If it doesn't, just let me know and I'll try and make a separate tutorial just for shadow masking that's better. I'm not really good at tutorials, as you can tell. Hopefully this helps someone, so goodbye.